Well, welcome to the follow-up after show, our web extra for our viewers that joined us for the big show. We have a lot more to talk about with our two guests, and they are staying here for the after show for a few more minutes. Dan Quisenberry, president of MAPSA, the Michigan Association of Public School Academies.
Yes.
I memorized that.
Thank you.
And Mike Van Beek, director of research of the Mackinac Center for Public Policy. So let's dive deep a little bit more in the after show, sort of about accountability. So I'll ask this question this way, with the viewers out there that are watching, and we just talked about it on the big show, that the governor last year approved an education budget that was $9,150 per pupil, record spending. So are we getting what we paid for?
One of the ways we ought to be doing that in a state like Michigan, and we don't do it very well, to be frank about it, is to share data, information. You know, test scores and the data are debated a lot, but several states in this country have figured out ways of doing it where it's relevant, it's informative to the public, and can answer the question you're talking about. Certainly having choices helps, but we need a healthy accountability system, and Michigan doesn't have one.
Yeah, and families need to know how well their local schools are performing, and taxpayers deserve to know too, because you know we're financing this, and there has to be accountability for spending these public funds on schools.
And how do we judge whether or not the kids are doing well? You had said to me, there's two different systems in how we judge how kids are doing well. What sense is that?
Yeah, it's confusing at best, even for people who are involved like I am. So currently in Michigan, we have what we call an A through F letter grading system that was intended to be relatively similar to what kids are graded at in school. If a school has an A, you understand what that looks like compared to a C. We also have an index system that has a different way of measuring schools that the federal government approved. Both are running simultaneously, sometimes have inconsistent results. Even for folks like me, you look at that and go, okay, I'm just frustrated. You're still not answering the question that most parents and the public and taxpayers want to know, which is, okay, how are the schools doing?
Yeah, and the other thing that makes it confusing sometimes is the state changes the categories they use to grade schools, and so sometimes they use color coding, and sometimes they use, you know, proficiency or almost proficient, or all these other terms that are not, you know, most parents don't know exactly what they mean. One system that I like most that I think Michigan should emulate is in Florida. They have an A through F system, and their system creates incentives for schools to serve the students who are performing the worst. And so part of their grade is how well the lowest performing students in their school, how much growth they made in 1 year. And it really makes the schools focus on the students who are the lowest performing ones and making sure those students are growing. That gives you a higher grade. And they've had a lot of success in Florida. Florida's low-income students in particular, the minority students, score significantly better on standardized tests than Michigan's low-income students.
It's a really good conversation because we're talking about doing things differently, being innovative. I mean, we've heard a lot for a lot of years that are we just educating these kids to take the test, or are they really learning something? And I think we're seeing some of these standardized tests starting to change too. Do you see that changing a little bit, that trend?
Yeah, that's part of this debate. So some of it is like Mike is talking about, what's the culture and how do schools even respond to the system that you have in place? Because it can be supportive and not destructive or high pressured, right? Let me give a different example because I think sometimes we get lost in this. I'm old enough, over the last 15 years, my general practitioner has made me pay attention to some numbers, my cholesterol numbers.
Okay.
That score matters. I don't like it any more than anybody else does, but it's a pretty important number to watch. So yeah, we're not talking about harshly judging people doing things that are inappropriate, but we need data to kind of know how are we doing. Most educators that I meet, when you talk about it and say, hey Dan, I want it to be fair, I want to know what this looks like, I want it to be consistent, but sure, I want people to understand. I want to know, how is our school doing? So we haven't accomplished that in Michigan.
And we all know that it's much more than just standardized test scores that matter, right? We all know that. So The point is that standardized test scores need to be a part of the conversation. They need to be a part of however we rank how well schools are performing. But to bring it back to National School Choice Week, another way of measuring how well a school is performing is how many parents are signing up to get their student in that school, right? That's another way of assessing how well a school is performing. So the more flexibility and options we offer parents, they're going to select the schools that are the highest performing ones. And it might be the ones that have the highest test scores, it may be, but it might not be. It might be ones that are providing other sorts of excellent services that aren't captured in a standardized test score.
So I think a lot of the viewers that watch tonight are learning some new things. There may be a lot of parents out there that are saying, I need to make some different choices for my kids. I feel like I'm a little bit overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So how can I, A, be an advocate, B, how do I get more resources? Where do I find this research? So what are some areas, where do they need to look?
Well, Mackinac Center, we exist to help educate the public about these kinds of issues. So we can be more than happy to help people who are looking to make those choices, or just looking to find out more about what kind of choices are available. Absolutely.
You can go to our website, certainly, charterschools.org. But I'd like to even emphasize, as the budget comes out, the state of state and things we talked about in the show, we have a republic. We've talked a lot about democracy and the importance of voting. That is important. But a republic means you use your voice. So legislators are happy to hear from constituents, and people should be asking questions, going to coffee hours, showing up and saying, hey, I want to know how you're spending this money. Are you protecting the choices that I have, the rights that I have to make a decision about my student? They won't be surprised when they're called. The fact of the matter is most people in the public don't do that, and that's a way to hold people like me accountable for what we're doing in Lansing.
Well, now more than ever, the timing of it is perfect.
Absolutely.
Governor Whitmer is beginning her second term
Yep.
this month. We've got a brand new legislature in there,
That's right.
and they've got to be held accountable, and so now's the time to do it. Don't wait. So, guys, nice seeing you.
Good to see you, Mike.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you for joining us tonight on the After Show.